make more good in the all-new Sportage X-Pro. Kia, movement that inspires.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
New Trail Brewing Company proudly crafts their beers right here in central Pennsylvania. Brewed with only the best possible ingredients, New Trail produces a variety of year-round brands as well as weekly experimental recipes. New Trail Broken Heels is Pennsylvania's favorite local hazy IPA. This beer is smooth and full-bodied. Hand-selected Citra hops lead to notes of bright clementine and juicy ruby red grapefruit. Broken Heels is perfect for a pregame tailgate all the way through the victory celebration.
What's the best mid-size pickup? Tacoma. What's the #1 mid-size truck in resale value? Tacoma. Want to get great gas mileage, 4 doors, and 4-wheel drive? Tacoma. Sioka Toyota of Williamsport has over 25 available right now. You can lease a brand new, never-driven Toyota Tacoma for just $379 a month. That's 30 months, $3,000 cash or trade, 10,000 miles a year. This is while supplies last. Buy yours or reserve yours today and see the Sioka difference. And remember, tell them Johnny sent you.
Yeah.
A very pleasant good afternoon as we welcome you into another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. I am at Quaker Steak and Lube in beloved State College on what is actually a very nice day. And the dear Goon, getting ready for Thanksgiving festivities, joins us remotely. And how are you, dear Goon?
Good to go, Ironhead. Getting ready for the big day here, a couple days away. You know, most fat people look forward to these days.
Well, you and Booch and I all predicted a big, easy victory for Penn State over Rutgers. Was wondering if that was going to be the case after the first quarter, but it certainly was the case as the game unfolded. And we'll see. I think Penn State's going to take care of business here against Michigan State. I do think this is a little bit of a dangerous game, just as always. The atmosphere. It'll be interesting to see. I don't think there's going to be a ton of students hanging around over the Thanksgiving break here. And, I don't think it's going to be as noisy of a stadium as you're used to seeing, certainly as it's been in the last few games. But I think the crowd, will be fired up, the fans that are there. And I think there's certainly a recognition on the part of this team, the importance of this game. And truthfully, Goon, I'm not listening a little bit to James Franklin at his press conference today and just thinking about the season. I'm not sure, and I know you've talked about they're motivated for the Rose Bowl or at least a New Year's Day or New Year's Six bowl game, but I'm not sure that they're not equally, if not more motivated to just as a team to send out this senior group on the right note at Beaver Stadium. I think that as a team, certainly the seniors don't want to go out with their lasting memory being a loss at Beaver Stadium, but I think the team is pretty motivated to send these guys out with a win for all they've done and all they've persevered through with the program, from COVID and the losing seasons, or the number of losses during the couple of COVID years there. And then, being able to get things very much back on the right track anyway here this season.
Yeah, like I was saying to you last week about how the similarities between this team and the 93 team are really outstanding, because we had a team that really was super talented. I mean, look at all the guys that are in the NFL from the last 2 or 3 years at Penn State. That should have been more wins, in my opinion. And I always go back to that 91, 92 when I first got to Penn State. I mean, have we talked about this on this show, or is that the TV show? I think it was with you. And I said how similar the 93 class of, the offensive linemen of Malinowski and Pickett, Grube, Lube and Fadi, Tyoka Jackson, Derek Bonner, guys who really, really, really paid their dues, and then were really, really good leaders. And, the 94 team sort of came out of its shell a little bit in 93. And the similarities to me are very the similarities are very similar. How's that sound, huh? But it's a really good.
I think you're right.
Great leadership. They're playing well late in the season, and they're playing for the older guys. And that's the best thing as a coaching staff is when you don't have to police the guys anymore. The locker room takes care of itself. The guys are going to go out there and play hard. You don't have to go out and motivate all these guys. And this class, I think you're right. They want to send these guys out with a nice win and a real good thank you.
Yeah, and listen, this is a Michigan State team that has certainly been playing better the last couple of weeks since ridiculousness at Michigan. But Penn State's just a better team. I mean, going in, if they both play, their best game, Penn State wins. Penn State is just a better team, even without Parker Washington. And I do wonder how much of some of the early offensive hiccups, Goon, were a result of just kind of adjusting to Parker Washington not being there on game day, because that is a big time playmaker for your offense, who was really coming into his own here throughout the middle portion of the schedule this year.
Yeah, I completely agree. And losing him the way they did in practice, and you never want to lose anybody in practice. And I guess James came out today and said he is done for the season. And reading on some different statecollege.com and Onward State that, he won't disclose the injury, but somebody said, I saw him on campus in a walking boot. So that's something sprained or broken that if he's done for the season, it's pretty substantial. But again, it was next man up mentality. And you're right. They did come off slow. And I'm definitely one of those people. I did text Booch. I did say, oh my God, is this the game we're going to drop this shit? Is this the one where we're going to stumble? And he was like, come on, man, come on. And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Then 10 minutes later, it's like they're up by 28 points. So I'll give it to Booch. He held firm on his prediction. But my prediction was pretty damn close, though, right? Wasn't it?
Yep. It was indeed. And I will say, it is to Penn State's credit that they took care of business, because there weren't many teams on Saturday that were dialed in the way you maybe would be expecting. And I think, it's a combination of things. I think both Michigan and Ohio State were, in fact, looking ahead a little bit. Yeah, but also, you got to realize that the opponents for all of these top tier teams, this makes their season if you can pull off a major upset. So, they're getting everybody's best shot, I think, for sure as well. And if you're not dialed in, again, there's not that much separation between the elite teams and the also-rans that, if you're not dialed in and the other team is, you are vulnerable. And again, we almost had just a crazy amount of upsets as it was, just a number of close calls on Saturday. But still got to see how everything plays out here. And I'm really curious to see now how things play out in the Ohio State-Michigan game, in particular here on Saturday.
Well, if Corum plays, it's a whole different ballgame.
No question.
I could not believe how dependent they are on him and that run game.
Yeah.
Did you notice late in the game it was Sam Gash's son who was playing tailback for them? He might be their fifth or sixth running back, to be honest with you. So it's not just Corum who's hurt out there. And then, they had Gash making some considerable plays out there. He dropped the one ball, but then he came back and made a hell of a catch on the next fourth down play. So my feeling is that's a complete whitewash right there. And that's what I want to ask you. We'll get into this. But, so if Ohio State goes out there whitewash, or Michigan goes into Ohio State and just gets bombarded, which if Corum does not play is a real possibility, because that team that played against Illinois without Corum was not the Michigan we've been seeing all year.
Yeah.
Their defense is banged up. But my question is, like every year the committee who picks the playoff teams changes all the rules. So do you think that they'll say this year that, they had guys hurt and then they deserve to be higher, because they used that excuse one time in the past?
Yeah. Not really. I don't. But yeah, well,
Nothing surprises me.
We'll wait and see. Well, and the thing is, right now, the way this is playing out, I think right now TCU's got a very good shot if it stays undefeated of getting in, which I didn't think that necessarily going into this past week, but with Tennessee's loss. And somebody was pointing out, that Tennessee's best season in a couple of decades, they're going to end up 10-2 if they take care of business and win the finale. And Alabama's disastrous worst season, it's going to be 10-2. Also, and Alabama's 2 losses will be close road losses, while Tennessee was not really competitive toward the end of the game in either of its losses this season, which again just takes you back to expectations, and how we view a season or a particular team is largely based on that, and what folks are expecting at the start of the season versus what you end up with. But I mean, there are still people out there making this out to be some sort of a disastrous end of the world scenario for Alabama. And at least until the loss to South Carolina, I mean, the perception was that, this was just an unbelievable everything coming together season, even with the loss to Georgia for Tennessee.
Yeah, it would have been the same thing as a Georgia loss to, if Georgia beating Tennessee, Ohio State, Michigan, then their only loss would have been to a top 4 team. Yeah. And it would have projected them into I still think it would have been 2 SEC, 2 ACE, 2 Big Ten. My personal opinion, even if TCU went undefeated, but not now. I really don't. I think that if TCU remains undefeated, they're not going to put a 2-loss team in there in front of them.
No, agreed.
But if they were, it was definitely going to happen with 1-loss team, in my opinion. But now, and I don't see. I mean, Baylor. I mean, they still have 2 games left, and they don't know exactly who they're playing in the last section of last game, right? Because they still have that quasi Big 12 titles, the 2 top teams. So it might be Baylor again. Who knows?
Which would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people out there who were saying that TCU didn't win that game. That was Baylor losing that game, and not doing anything, doing everything in their power to pucker up and not get the first downs that they needed to run some clock and do this or that. I mean, throwing the ball with, 4 minutes left and, instead of running the ball, I mean, a lot of stuff goes into it, but you got to learn from those things, and the coaches will. But, it has been a fun season. It's a very good season. I mean, again, we go back to, people are very upset about Penn State because of the 2-loss season. Granted, if we go and do what we have to do with an 18-point favorite over Sparty, we take care of business this week. I mean, people are still going to be upset about a 2-loss season when we were an unranked team coming into the season. We weren't even ranked in the top 25. No one was expecting anything. It was expected the over-under was 8 wins, so you're going to have 10. Now, granted, I'm on the same ilk of I'm sick and tired of losing to the same 2 teams all the time because we're just going down that road of being the Big 2 and the rest of everybody else in the Big 10 right now. So that needs to change. We need to get to that next level. And that next level is beating those 2 and going to the playoffs. But I think a wildly successful year with this group because they could have mailed it in like they had the last 2 or 3 years. They had mailed it in.
Yeah.
They didn't do it this year.
Yeah, and that to me, Goon, is for me at least the biggest positive takeaway is that this team, after getting smacked around by Michigan and losing a very tough, I think, emotional game in that locker room to Ohio State, they bounced back and have played their best football of the season since and down the stretch, which is what you want.
Yep.
And what you expect of good coach teams. I mean, that's kind of, to me, how you measure a coach is, does that team make progress and play its best football at the end of the season? Now, there are obviously some factors that can play into that, including injuries and all of that. But, to me, I go back to the conversations we had before the season began about, and I think I said probably too many times that, it wasn't as much for me about the record. I mean, I could feel good about 8-4 if the 8-4 looked good and left you with a good feeling about the way they were performing at the end and all of that. Whereas I could feel disappointed at 9-3 about the overall direction if you weren't competitive and you were losing a couple of games late in the season. So to me, I feel really good, assuming Penn State takes care of business here Saturday. I mean, we'll still got to see that, but if Penn State wins and especially if it covers and wins by 3 touchdowns or so or more against Michigan State Saturday, to me, you can't qualify this season as anything but a success based on early expectations and based on the way, again, that this team would have responded and would have played down the stretch again after. And it's not an easy thing. It's easy, I think, to say, well, put the loss behind you and let's move ahead. But for a guy like Sean Clifford, I mean, he talked about it. He knew that loss to Ohio State was, a bit of a legacy killer in terms of how fans will view and remember him long term. And that's not an easy thing, to knowing that was kind of your last shot, with the exception maybe of the bowl game. And you hope for Clifford's sake and this team's sake that they get that opportunity with a big marquee bowl game. But it's not easy to then turn around and after, again, getting blown out by Michigan and then losing a tough one like that to Ohio State, to truly keep your focus and be able to dial in and play your best football. But I mean, to me, it's no question that Penn State has played its best couple of games here the last 2 weeks. And I think, again, that it goes back to the leadership and this team's ability to stay focused and dialed in, and regardless of whether the goals that it had initially are out there or not, to still keep focused on let's get as good as we can be and finish this thing off right. And that is James Franklin deserves a lot of credit for that. The coaches do, but this team deserves a ton of credit for being able to hang in there, hang together, and persevere through that and put together the finish they did. And again, I get that it was against inferior competition, but look around college football and look at Penn State the last couple of seasons. It's inferior competition doesn't guarantee a win. And it wasn't just that Penn State won again, to me, Goon. It's the way they've gone out and played. It's been, offense, defense, special teams, all contributing. And I think, when one player's off a little bit on a given day, there's other players there to step up and, carry the team through. And I think that's, again, a credit to everybody in the program right now.
Yeah, I mean, we almost had 3 defensive touchdowns and a kick return for a touchdown the other day. I mean, you talk about a team playing together as a group, and I think our special teams is one of the top special teams that we've had in a long time here. My opinion, the kicking game has been outstanding all season. The coverage teams have been great, and but the defense stepping up the other day, and because Rutgers came out, it was 10-7, 10-3 to the 13-10 type of thing. So it was, and that's when I was calling Chris just kidding around and this and that. But I was like, well, don't let this be the day. And they just put their foot to the gas pedal and just rode it down and mowed down Rutgers and made them just quit. I mean, that was the way it looked out to me, that they didn't want to play the game anymore. They were done. And that is an homage to, you got to pay a lot of respect to the offense and the defense and how they played that game and how we went out there defensively and made plays, sacks, interceptions, interception returns for pick sixes. I mean, you can't recover from that as an offense. If you give up 21 points like that as an offense, you give those points up. You can't just pick those things up again. So very, very, very good all around. Every aspect of the game the last few weeks has been honed up and very good. So been reading a little bit about Sparty here, Jeff. So they have not had a padded hitting practice in 4 weeks. Since the Michigan episode, they had 8 guys suspended and a bunch of guys hurt, but they haven't even had it hitting. They haven't anything to do with hitting at all in practice during the week. And they're going out there and playing on Saturday, and they are just giving up gluts and miles of yardage in a rushing game. So what better way for me to finish my season out and being happy as hell than our offensive line having to go out and dominate a team and win the game on the ground? Because they have been playing. We've rushed for almost 700 yards in the last 3 or 4 games. It's been fantastic. And Sparty is just waiting to get blown out, in my opinion, especially with the run game that we can bring to the table this coming week.
Yeah, I do think. I mean, that is clearly the biggest mismatch on paper going into this game. Is you're expecting Penn State to be able to run the ball very effectively.
What a difference a year makes.
Yeah, what a porous. Yeah, how about it? What a porous defense Michigan State has been. Especially against the run. And, I was talking with a buddy of mine yesterday about, what you're expecting from the fans and Sean Clifford on Saturday. I mean, I don't think there's any question. There's nobody that nobody in their right mind that doesn't respect Sean Clifford and what he's given to this program. We can debate and you can argue all you want about whether or not Aller should have been given a chance earlier in the season or whatever. But I mean, nobody questions the heart that and leadership that Sean Clifford has given this program. And there's nobody. You're crazy, I think, to think that anybody's going to do anything other than cheer wildly for Sean Clifford and more just a recognition again of what this kid has given in terms of his effort throughout his career here at Penn State. So I don't think it's a question that he's going to get a rousing ovation on Saturday. And my buddy said kind of jadedly, he's like, well, yeah, he's going to get a huge ovation because the fans that have wanted Aller all along are going to cheer the fact that he's out of here. The others are going to be cheering, just what I said, the effort. So regardless, he's going to get a good ovation. And I think the entire senior class will rightfully get.
Do you ever remember anybody getting booed, to be honest?
I don't.
I don't think so. It better not be the what happens on Saturday. My God, that would be a horrible.
No, it's not.
That's not deserving. I mean, it is the third time he is running out for senior day, so he should know the procedure. So.
He does have a pretty good understanding of how to handle it now.
Holy crap.
I'll tell you, I do think it sets Clifford up for next year for his final year of eligibility. I think he's going to have just a monster. Oh, what's that? No, this is going to be it. Oh, okay. Never mind.
That we know of. There could be a rule change here and there, so. Go back to my senior day, and you're just so zoned in, man. It is so awesome because it's like you're coming down the end of the train, end of the tunnel, coming out of it, and you're out there. You walk out there a half hour before the game, and you're just like, it's great and this and that, and it's very emotional and this and that. But then you go back inside, you get ready to play, but you don't want to lose your last game at Penn State. And I would love to know our record in home game, final game of the season for seniors. I mean, I really do. Historically, our guys play so tough those days, and our fans are so appreciative of these guys, and they're really into it normally. In this type of game, especially when it's Michigan State. Mine was we played Michigan State to end the season out on the road, so we still in that game after my senior game. But the fans, I think that they realize the students aren't here, that they need to pick it up. So actually, the fans are rather crazy at this Michigan State game and making a lot of noise and being all ruckus, trying to get this team fired up because it is a tough play. It is. You're used to 107,000 people yelling and screaming and jumping around, and 50,000 students doing that, and you're probably going to have maybe 20, maybe half of that, I think.
That's probably about right.
I mean, you can't blame the students. I mean, it is what it is. Have you seen the weather, by the way? It changed. It's actually going to be a beautiful 48 degrees, partly sunshiny day. I don't ever remember those from one of our senior days. I mean, it's usually about 4 degrees, and everybody smells like kerosene coming in because they've been standing up at the campfire all day. So, interesting to see how these guys do. And I think that these guys are just so tuned in right now. And like I said about Rutgers last week, I think that they had already mailed it in. I think that their season was over. They were done. I think Shiano was done with that class. He wanted them gone. He wants more of his guys. But I just think that, I know that Michigan State is playing for a bowl game. I know that. We know that. You know that. I know that. Everybody knows that. But they just don't have the horses. And I just think that Penn State comes out and just pummels them right off the get, puts a couple scores up front, stops them on defense and this and that. The old saying is Sparty's always going to be Sparty, and that will be they're going to quit and want to get out of there as fast as they possibly can. So we owe them an ass kicking from last year too, because that was a very, very, very bad game to end that season last year. Horrible way to end our season last year. If I recall, Sparty was missing 10 and 12 guys because of flu symptoms, and we went out there and in the snow played like a bunch of it upset me how bad we played in that game. So I think that these guys got to go out there and avenge that loss from last year.
Yeah, and a couple of other things that are just interesting when you start looking at some of the bowl projections here for Penn State, Goon, is with the way things are shaking out, if Notre Dame beats USC, which I think is for sure a possibility, if not even a likelihood to me after watching the USC UCLA game and Notre Dame down the stretch here. But if that happens, I think we're getting close to it being likely that the Michigan-Ohio State loser, especially if it's Ohio State, is going to be in the college football playoffs. Because you're going to be looking at, again, a one-loss team against another playoff-bound squad. Again, assuming it's a competitive game. Yeah. Obviously, if it's a blowout, either way, even that, I don't know that the loser is necessarily automatically eliminated. But in particular, if USC loses to Notre Dame, I think it's certainly possible, but I think we're getting close to likely that the loser of that game, if it is a competitive game, does get into the field here as well.
Yeah, well, my prediction for that game is if Corum plays, it'll be somewhat competitive. I think Ohio State wins because he's not going to be 100%. But if he doesn't play, and they're sitting there playing Isaiah Gash as their tailback, and I love Sam Gash, one of my favorite teammates of all time.
Yep.
But I just don't. He's not Blake Corum. He had 107 yards rushing in the first half, and then in the second half, the rushing game was kaput. It was non-existent. Yeah. So, and that's why I was trying to ask you earlier is if the committee takes that into account, because it was Clemson that was missing a couple years ago. Yes. And they got smoked by somebody, right?
Yeah, Syracuse beat them. Pitt beat them, but yeah, I think it was Syracuse that year that.
And Watson didn't play. Is that what it was? Or somebody didn't play, but they were making the excuse that the star players of Clemson weren't playing. So if they take it into account that they were playing, they would have won that game. So I wonder if they're going to do that for Michigan, because that's my feeling. I think that I shouldn't say that. My big feeling is that they definitely want a Pac-12 team. They want that West Coast audience. They have to have it because
But if USC loses, that's
what I'm saying. If Notre Dame wins, USC's gone. I get it, and then there's really nothing. The Michigan Ohio State game would be, whoever wins goes and plays another game, and then they go play in the playoff game. So I get it, but I just want to see how that's going to be picked. But you're right. If USC wins, I think that animals. If USC wins, I think that the committee would really want that West Coast audience to be on out there. So that comes into play. You're bringing politics now and viewers into it now. So it's like, is it really the top four teams? And you know how it works. We could sit here for the next 9 hours going back and forth on how they're going to do it. But it's a moving target every year with them.
No, that is true for sure. But again, I think if you're if you're a Penn State fan, right, you're rooting for Notre Dame to beat USC, and then for a competitive Michigan-Ohio State game, and you're probably rooting for Michigan to win that game in a close one. Because I think, especially if that's the case, if Michigan wins and it's one of those instant classics and it's a 31-30 type of game, I mean, I think both those teams are in, and I think Penn State is, likely headed to the Rose Bowl. I'll go back to our conversation, and I trust what you're saying about the players, that they just would like to, that the Rose Bowl means something and all of that. But you're talking about, to me, playing like a Tennessee after the season it's had, or, a Clemson team even, in a quote unquote down year for Clemson. I think that would carry more clout to me than taking on, Oregon or USC or Utah out of the Pac-12.
But there's also Alabama out there too.
What's that?
Isn't there talk of Alabama going? I have seen that. I've seen the Citrus Bowl versus Alabama, the Citrus Bowl versus Ole Miss.
Yeah, Ole Miss seems to be the.
It doesn't jump out at me. It doesn't. Does it to you?
The Ole Miss one?
Yeah.
No, to me that's the. I mean, it would still be a cool game, and depending on what happens here with Lane Kiffin, it may be one of the more talked about and tuned in games. But yeah, to me, of all of the options that we're at least talking about at the moment, it's the least exciting, which isn't to say it wouldn't be exciting, but to me, matching up with Clemson or Tennessee, or obviously if you got a chance to play Alabama.
Those three are sexy games to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think either USC or Oregon, I mean, I think that's an attractive game in the Rose Bowl. But I don't think it's as attractive as, certainly playing Alabama or Clemson in terms of just a clout thing going into next year. But not something they can control. And again, any of the game, Mississippi included, I mean, it would be a great opportunity to finish off the season with what would be a substantial victory. And again, I think at least help set the table for higher expectations next season, and with the talent coming back, I think it's reasonable to have higher expectations next season.
Our 93 team played in the Citrus Bowl. If you want to, add, I mean, like I've been saying, the similarities between the 93 team and this one are really, really big. And wow, that would be. I just thought of that. We did play in the Citrus Bowl that year versus Heath Schuler in Tennessee. And then, do we go to the Citrus Bowl again and use that as as the stepping stone towards the season?
Maybe even Tennessee again.
Yeah, or a former Tennessee coach in Lane Kiffin. By then, he might be a former Ole Miss coach at this rate. So
it'll be interesting. It's and it's fun to speculate and see all of the different projections right now going into it. But again, still a lot that can happen this weekend. And for Penn State, it's just again about staying dialed in the way they have been here the last few weeks and taking care of business and sending the seniors out right against Michigan State. And then we'll see how the chips fall. They're going to fall pretty favorably for Penn State, no matter how this ultimately plays out. Penn State beats Michigan State. They're going to have some fun in the Bulls this year. There's no question about that, and they'll get an opportunity again for another marquee victory. A couple other things just wanted to touch on Goon before we wrap up shop here, and obviously no show Thursday with it being Thanksgiving, but the congratulations to both the Penn State field hockey and women's soccer teams on their seasons, albeit coming up short of what the hopes were for both of those programs, but terrific seasons for both of those teams. And I think future certainly very bright for the women's soccer. And I think there's certainly a lot of talent coming back on that field hockey squad. They do lose some key seniors off of this year's team heading into next year. But I want to talk for a little bit about the winter sports teams, Goon, because I'm telling you, this hockey team is just a whole lot of fun right now, and they keep finding ways and more exciting ways to win at least one of the games here against marquee opponents each weekend. And I think that they're setting themselves up to be again right in the mix anyway here in both a very strong Big Ten and in the NCAA tournament at the end of the season. And it's fun because it's not just that they're playing competitive hockey. It's fun hockey to watch. They are an entertaining team.
Oh, they're exciting as hell to watch. Guy has always had a lot of his always thing has been shoot, get the puck on the net, get the puck on the net. But I mean, they're actually finishing some plays this year that are just outstanding, and how they're playing and who they're playing and who they're beating up on is great. I mean, they play tonight and tomorrow night. To hammer this week out. So, and I know there's a lot of tickets out there. If anybody's out there who can get up here to go to that game, you get a real good set of tickets right now for tonight's game. Alaska Anchorage, who's always been like a historic, nice power, nice good team. A lot of NHL players come out of there. But yeah, I mean, what they did when they started that program, Jeff, has just been outstanding. I mean, when I talk to Joe Batista, and he tells me that they went to 10 different arenas around the league, and they took the top things from each arena and they molded it into this one, which is the Pagula Ice Arena. And it is unbelievable. I had my very good friend from home was a huge hockey guy. I brought him up to a game this year. He was just sitting there going, "This is awesome." He goes, he travels to minor league hockey games to see that. And he goes to a lot of Flyer games. And he was like, "This was one of the best games I've ever seen," because you're right on top of it. I mean, I don't know if there are people out there listening right now who've never gone to a hockey game. You go to a live hockey game, you become a fan instantly of how just the noises and everything you hear that goes on, you don't see or hear on the ice when it's on television. So Guy is a great friend. He is an unbelievable guy, a great person for this program. And what he's killing it right now because of his offenses, but they're still not giving up that many goals. We can sit there and say offense is doing great, but man, they're playing great all around.
Yeah, that no question. And the basketball team, Goon, to be honest with you, I was almost as impressed with their lone loss to this point this season as I have been with any of the wins, because it was just a game where clearly things were not going the way they wanted, and they just kept grinding and finding a way to stay in it and gave themselves a chance right to the final second ticked off the clock there. And I just think that's that type of performance on a day where the shots aren't falling the way you've become accustomed. I think that's going to serve this team very well as you move down the road here. I really like what I'm seeing from this team, and from day one, I have said it, and I keep waiting for a move by Shrewsbury where I'm like, oh my gosh, what is he doing? And that just hasn't happened from a personnel standpoint, from a recruiting standpoint, from in-game decisions. Like there's nothing where might be little things here or there that you could quibble with, but there's nothing where you're like, oh my gosh, what was he thinking there? Or why would he do that? It's all like, oh man, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, that was good. Oh, that's awesome. so
that loss to Virginia Tech last week.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, what a great comeback in the second half. I say bullshit. It wasn't the second half. It was staying in the game in the first half and only keeping it to 8. Because they could have easily gone down 20-25 the way they were shooting. And I said to you before on the show is that, I love the fact they can shoot the three-pointer. It's great. But when it's not on, it is a bad off day. And then watching the what game was I watching the other night? Oh, it was the Virginia Tech game. Excuse me. It was the first half of the Virginia Tech game. And I said the lack of a big man is going to hurt this team down the road. But if you can shoot the three and if you have 4 guards that can run, you can. I mean, the other teams have to get those big guys off the court. They can't match up. So, I mean, we're going to get hurt in the inside against bigger teams. But if we're rocking and rolling four guards deep, and we're shooting well, they can't have those big guys on the court.
Yeah, and I think you can offset that, obviously, if you are on target with your 3-pointers in any particular game. But, yeah, I mean, there's no question that that's the one ongoing concern. But I just, again, I think, Virginia Tech tried to exploit it, and I get Virginia Tech won the game, and hats off to them. But, I mean, at the end of the day, you went against a team that has some size inside, and you weren't able to shoot the ball the way you're used to. And again, you had a chance in the final second to still win the game. To me, that bodes well for Penn State down the road. And the wrestling team, Goon, I think is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, they're all right. They'll hang in there. They'll scrap by a few different matches here and there.
Yeah, I thought both Shane Van Ness and Alex Facundo got a little step up in competition over the course of the day this past weekend at the Black Knight Open, and I think. Both of those guys have some things they need to work on. I'm not going to tell you that as we sit here today, either are ready to go win a national title. But the good thing is they don't wrestle for the NCAA title in November. And I think both of those guys, by the time March rolls around, are going to continue to figure things out. I really love the way both of them, but Shane Van Ness and his approach to the sport and to his game, I just love. He is a guy that is just going to get better and better as we go along, and I think he's learning. He only got 2 matches last year because of injuries during his redshirt year, so he has not had very much collegiate competition. Now, obviously, he's getting tested plenty in the room, and I understand that, but it's different when you're out there and facing guys that you don't have a feel for and you're not seeing every day in the room, and knowing what's coming and all of that. And I'm really impressed with the way he continues to improve and the adjustments he makes even in each match from period to period. I just think he's a guy, again, I don't know where he's going to end up. 149 suddenly looks like it's a wide open weight class. I mean, Diakomo Hollis is obviously still the favorite, but if you didn't see, the 3-time champ for Cornell got knocked off 9-3 by Austin Gomez, who is a very dangerous wrestler, obviously, for Wisconsin. Got a big throw, and then Diakomo Hollis was kind of chasing him the rest of the bout and never really was able to get back in it.
Hey, so Jeffrey, about Diakomo Hollis, whatever. Yeah, you were there. I read an article that somebody had said how he handled himself after that loss. That he could have just gone away, pouted, run away, got mad at the refs, get mad at the coaches, pissed off at himself, and this and that. They said he just stayed on the bench and just hung out there and cheered his teammates on.
Yeah, no,
I was told. I mean, I said, "Damn, that's you don't see that from a lot of guys."
No, but he's legit. No, he's a leader, and he's a guy. I mean, from day one, he's been. He reminds me a lot of David Taylor in terms of his maturity and again, the way, I mean, he's obviously very, very competitive and very dialed in, but he also, I don't know that you're going to find, like Taylor, he likes interacting with other guys, competitors, teammates. I mean, he is very much tuned into the brotherhood of the sport, and I think is just with his personality is a guy that even opponents tend to gravitate toward in terms of just liking and wanting to be around. So
that's very nice to see.
No, yeah, I'm not surprised by it just because of who he is, and he's just he's obviously a very, very special kid. But that weight class, I'm telling you, Goon, is going to be a whole lot of fun. And I'm not so sure that by the end of the year, Van Ness isn't going to be in the mix there. And again, there's a lot of guys that I think are going to be in the mix there. But really like what I'm seeing from him, and obviously the team in general. I think Ari Steen is another guy that's just making some really good strides here early in the season, making some little adjustments on the technical end. And again, just needs to get some match experience and get a little more confidence under his belt. And I think, he's a guy that can make some noise by the time that the postseason rolls around as well. So really curious to see how the three guys competing tonight at the All-Star Classic handle themselves and compete. Obviously, they are really hyping the Carter Starachi, Mekhi Lewis, and understandably.
Yeah.
So, it was a terrific bout last year that Carter won on, 15 seconds, I think, of riding time in the tiebreaker. So, there's not much separating those two, and they're obviously both phenomenal wrestlers and phenomenal athletes, and I think that's going to be a very entertaining bout, but really curious.
On, Jeff?
What's that?
What's that on tonight?
It'll be Flow Wrestling.
Okay, Flow Wrestling.
Yeah, and listen, Greg Kirkfleet has put on about 20 pounds of muscle, and I think be really curious to see he and Cassiope match up tonight, and if Greg can just keep the pressure on for all 7 minutes, how Cassiope is able to respond to that. And then, Aaron Brooks, I know people are kind of taking it for granted that he's going to beat Kakaisen. I'm telling you, Kakaisen gave him about as tough a match as anybody in the country last year. And I do think Kakaisen is just a very strong wrestler for Northern Iowa. And I'm certainly expecting Brooks to win, but I will not be shocked if Kakaisen is able to pull off what would be an upset in that one. But I think, again, a neat opportunity for the sport to get a lot of big names in one place and to showcase the sport and get people talking, regardless of the results tonight, about how things may or may not be different as the season unfolds. So I think that's all good stuff. And then just real quickly, do want to give the State College Little Line football team its props. An unbelievable game Friday night at Memorial Field. It is as memorable a game as I can remember seeing in high school football. Just a triple overtime affair, and both coaches talked going into the game about how proud they were of their seniors in particular, and how the seniors were just phenomenal in their ownership of the respective programs. And McDowell was battling several injuries coming into that game, and then Deontay Sheffy, the leading running back for State High, went down with what we thought was a late hit, and he missed almost the entire second half as a result. And both those teams just persevered, and it was a bitterly cold night.
It looked very, very, very cold, buddy.
Yeah, it's one of those games. I know it's a cliche to, you hate to see anybody lose, but I really did feel for the McDowell kids. Obviously it was thrilled for the State High kids, but it just such a tough way for McDowell to see that season and game come to an end. But for State College, again, an opportunity now to be back at home against North Allegheny, which is obviously a terrific team in its own right. So it'll be a lot of fun here on Friday night.
And the boys of St. Joseph Prep on the horizon if they get through that one.
Yes, indeed.
It's going to be a fun 2 weeks here, buddy.
It is.
You're doing the game, right?
Yes. Yeah, we'll be doing the game on local radio. I keep I have to write it. It's just not a station I've worked for before, but it's 98.7 Bigfoot Country Legends. And so, looking forward to the opportunity to call the game here on Friday. And it should be another just terrific battle between two really good football teams.
It's in State College, right?
It is, yeah. Which is so unusual because State College is usually having to travel. The PIAA pre-pandemic was always, pretty insistent that these games had to be at neutral sites. And those neutral sites tended to be about an hour away from the State High opponents and about 2 to 2.5 hours away for State College is how they were usually scheduling those neutral sites. And so I'm not a huge fan, truthfully, of the home games. I understand why they're doing it, and I think coming out of the pandemic, they looked at it. It's like, well, listen, if we can have it at one school or the other, it's probably a good thing from a revenue standpoint for us, and just from a game management and setup standpoint. But it is not. I don't think it's ideal in terms of competitive fairness. So I'll be curious to see how that continues or discontinues as we move forward. But for State College, it's a really neat opportunity here to have another home game before heading to the state semifinals if they win it Friday night here against North Allegheny, and that game obviously would be then at a neutral field. So
yeah. It's not Hershey this year, right? They've moved it over to a high school, right?
Well, the championship game will be at Cumberland Valley, but semifinals could be at Hershey.
Oh wait, this isn't the semi?
This is the quarterfinals coming up Friday.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought it was the semis. I thought they were winning.
No, this would be a quarterfinal game between. Yeah, usually State College faces the Whippeal in the semis, but. Yeah, this year it's they'll meet them in the quarterfinals. Cool. So
I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yep, should be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
And your Eagles found a way to get it done, dear Goon.
Oof.
My Steelers did not find a way to
get one, and the Steelers are in a little bit of an issue right now. I mean,
yeah, although they scored.
Yeah,
they at least put up some points against Joe Burrow and company, but boy, Burrow was on and gave the Steelers some
fits. Did you see the interception that Burrow had? And I think it was.
I did not. Yeah,
he just jumped up and instead of deflecting a pass, he just caught it, and Burrow was 3 yards in front of him. It was unbelievable. And the guy was like, I've never seen a play like that before. And then they go to the first game of the season. He had done the exact same thing. He at least tipped at the first game and then caught it. This one, he just jumped and caught it. So it's just been amazing what that guy's doing and what a difference that guy makes. The one guy that makes such a difference on that defense. Holy crap.
And can I just tell you that, in the overall scheme of things, I get that it's not a big deal, and for Jets fans, it is a big deal. But is there any other team other than the New England Patriots that doesn't get a block to the back call on that punt return with the hit at the 10-yard line? I guarantee you, if that's the Steelers, 100% of the time that play. Now they probably, it would come back and it'd probably end up being about a 35-ish yard field goal to 40-yard field goal, and they probably hit it. I get it. I'm not saying that non-call necessarily cost them the game, but is it not unbelievable that the Patriots seem to always be the benefactor of those calls or non-calls? Yep. You're watching that, and it's like, well, that's got to come back. It's
I saw it happen. I said, one is, what the hell is he doing? And two was,
that was the thing. It's like they're 10 yards past you. Don't even give the official an opportunity, but you did give the official an opportunity, and I'm telling you, obviously, I can't prove it, and I'm not big on the conspiracy theories or anything, but it's unbelievable that the Patriots don't have that called, because I'm 100% guaranteed that if that was the Steelers versus the Patriots, and that's the Steelers on the punt return, that baby is coming back.
Yeah. You watched the game last night at all? Did you watch the game last night?
I watched the first half.
So you saw the first drive that Kittle tipped the pass and then took an absolute blow to the head. And I'm sitting there saying, okay, well, that's going to be 15 right there.
Yeah.
It's so subjective. It's just insane how some people feel as though they have to call it as soon as any kind of bad hit on the quarterback or on a defenseless receiver. And then you see a guy who literally was defenseless and he about took his head off. And there's no penalty at all. And it's like, what is going on? The NFL's got to fix that up. It's too much gray area right now for the referees. Either you throw it all the time or you don't throw them at all. I mean, that's just how I feel. I mean, I'm going back 2 weeks ago to the Eagles game against the Redskins, and there's a hit out of bounds, but it was still in bounds. The guy got hit out of bounds, but they called a 15-yard penalty, and it was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, it was a big devastating hit. Well, and then you throw a flag. No, it was still in the playing field.
Yeah.
And then last night you see him reaching for a football and just taking a helmet right to the chin, and nothing is called. I'm just like, this is why people get so frustrated with the NFL.
Yeah. No question.
And the fact that the Patriots don't get called on something like that.
Yep. It's amazing how it seems to be that way consistently. And you got World Cup fever, do you, Goon?
I have watched. I'm not lying to you. I really enjoy watching World Cup play. I honest to God, I do. It's such a high level of play that I enjoy watching it, because I don't like watching any other type of soccer because it doesn't seem to be that high of level of play.
No, and listen, as a soccer aficionado, Goon, the key here for the U.S., if they can outscore both England and is it Iran or Iraq? I forget which one they're playing. If they can outscore both of those teams, they're going to advance out of pool play here.
Maybe
to the bank. Take it to the bank.
I would think so. But I got us this weekend, big score again versus a little score. I think Sparty tries to fight a little bit early, but then they just get we steamroll them. And I think that running game is going to be unstoppable on a nice day like that. Senior day, crowd will be crazy. The seniors are going to be playing hard. Our super freshmen are going to go off again. I just think we're just going to roll Sparty.
No, I think it's going to be very similar to the Indiana game, the Indiana-Michigan State game, except for Michigan State's going to score a lot fewer points than they have now.
Good answer.
but I think the other side is going to look very similar. Yeah, I think just like I thought with Rutgers, I think the whatever it is, 19 or 19 and a half, I don't think it's enough. I think Penn State will pull away. It may be fairly competitive again early, but I think you're looking at like a 45-17, 45-14 type of game.
Correct, Bella.
All right, my man. Well, enjoy Thanksgiving.
You too. Good luck this week. Stay high, buddy.
Yep, we will take it. And we will be back a week from today with yet another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show here at Quaker Steak and Lube. Have a terrific Thanksgiving. And until next Tuesday, be good and be safe.
Make more good in the all-new Sportage X-Pro. Kia, movement that inspires.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
New Trail Brewing Company proudly crafts their beers right here in central Pennsylvania. Brewed with only the best possible ingredients, New Trail produces a variety of year-round brands as well as weekly experimental recipes. New Trail Broken Heels is Pennsylvania's favorite local hazy IPA. This beer is smooth and full-bodied. Hand-selected Citra hops lead to notes of bright clementine and juicy ruby red grapefruit. Broken Heels is perfect for a pregame tailgate all the way through the victory celebration.
What's the best mid-size pickup? Tacoma. What's the #1 mid-size truck in resale value? Tacoma. Want to get great gas mileage, 4 doors, and 4-wheel drive? Tacoma. Sioka Toyota of Williamsport has over 25 available right now. You can lease a brand new, never-driven Toyota Tacoma for just $379 a month. That's 30 months, 3,000 cash or trade, 10,000 miles a year. This is while supplies last. Buy yours or reserve yours today and see the Sioka difference. And remember, tell them Johnny sent you.